we do have a prepared speech followed by a panel discussion, and that is with Toastmaster Brian Vinciguerra. It is part of his level 5 pathway. The title of his speech is called The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. And it is 5 to 7 minutes. Brian, I will be your timer. And so I introduce to you all Toastmaster Brian Vinciguerra, 5 to 7 minutes, panel discussions, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honored guest Sean from Miller Mock College and Dr. Crypto all the way down there in Panama. It is so good to see you. Over my life, I've had opportunity to be a panelist as well as a panel moderator. And I tripped upon this phrase that says the panel discussion was invented by someone who likes to sit 3 feet above their audience, talk with 5 of his best friends for about an hour, and barely acknowledge that there are 100 other people in the room, usually sitting in uncomfortable chairs. Now, this has been my experience on both sides of the podium, both as a presenter and also as a panelist member. Back in 2023, I was requested on an emergency notice to be a panel moderator for my trade, the escape room industry. I was a member, I'm no longer a member, but I was a member of the board, the advisory panel for the Trans World Haunted Attraction Show for the escape room industry. The presenter that they were going to have had gotten ill, so they asked me to sub in as the moderator for a panel on, and I can't remember the name of the subject anymore because it's been several years. I have time and distance from it, but I learned several harsh lessons moderating a panel on short notice. Now, tonight I'm going to talk about 3 things about being a panel moderator and a panel member. I'm going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of both sides of that podium. Now, being a moderator, the good side was I got to have an exciting conversation with industry experts. It was me standing there behind a podium asking a whole bunch of prepared questions from 5 renowned experts in the escape room industry, people that have grown up as the industry had blossomed and grown to some prominence in my industry. The bad part of it was I've also had unengaging panelists. So these dynamic personalities, some are superstars. There's one fella named Marty that wears a bow tie. He's a clown show walking around. He's the most outgoing, genial person there is. And then on the other side of it, there was Brian, not this Brian, another Brian that is a virtual curmudgeon. He is the most dour, the most unforthcoming person there is. And why he was sitting on this panel is beyond me. But we had unengaging panelists as well, people that were just sticks in the mud. So as the moderator, my job was to not only draw out the personality of Marty, but to maybe ease the personality of Brian and then bring out the unengaging personalities that I had as well. That was the bad of being that moderator. The ugly, my own shortcomings. So back in 2023, I wasn't a well-polished speaker as I am today. I wasn't comfortable standing in front of 100 people that I could barely acknowledge. And that was shortcoming number 1, is that I completely forgot that there was an audience out there that was listening to our discussion that wanted to engage with us. And we left barely enough time at the end of the panel discussion to take 2 or 3 questions. The second thing is, as a last-minute substitution, I didn't fully understand the purpose of the panel discussion, what my role was. I had no real experience with being a moderator, so I considered myself a panel member as well, which leads to my third shortcoming as a panel moderator, was I just didn't know when to shut up. As a moderator, my job is to ask the question to elicit the response from the panelist. Brian in 2023 didn't fully comprehend that. And I should have taken a chair right next to the panel members and handed the microphone to them as I was speaking, which I didn't do. Another shortcoming was ambiguous questions. Not only was I a substitution at the very last moment, I only had a couple of hours to prepare for the panel, but I didn't have any questions that were given to me that these are what we want you to ask. So I had to craft out of thin air an hour's worth of content in about 20 minutes. So my questions were disjointed, they were disambiguated, they were not in line with what we were trying to, and people had paid $50 to sit in an hour-long discussion to listen to these 5 dynamic personalities. As a panelist, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, one of the best panels that I was ever a panelist on was just recently, last March, I was invited to be a panel member for the Rural Rise Summit in Raleigh, North Carolina. I was a member from the target audience of military business people. And I wanted to speak about being a military member. The bad, I participated at the Trans World Show, my trade show. I participated as a panel member on a panel on disaster preparedness for interactive entertainment activities, because we had all just come through COVID. We had all experienced various things, and many of us survived, many of us didn't. So we had a panel of escape room owners that had survived the pandemic, and also escape room owners that had not survived the pandemic. So our frame of reference was, how do we prepare in the future to better prepare ourselves for another event like this? As a panelist, we didn't fully understand what the scope of the panel was supposed to be. It wasn't articulated to us. They didn't give us the, like, this is, you're being asked these to be a panelist because of your subject matter expertise in X, Y, or Z. The bad also were long-winded answers, alluding back to my first thing, is when you're given the microphone, you're expected to use time wisely as a panelist. And the panel members that were, including myself, that were part of this panel, would drone on and on and on, because we didn't fully understand the scope of the panel. Now, the ugly. I have a firm case of FOMO, a correction of imposter syndrome. I didn't believe that I should have been on that stage as a subject matter expert in disaster preparedness. So my key takeaways from being both a moderator and a panelist, as I participated in panels, as the Boy Scouts say, be prepared. As a moderator, be prepared, ask questions that have a point, and keep it short. And with that, I will end this portion of my project. I appreciate your time and assistance. And we're going to move into the moderator portion.